Stellar Blade is one of the most hyped up game releases for the first half of 2024, and I do really think it is going to be a smashing success for Shift Up. But recently, while people were very excited to see a demo published, we found out that it was released too early, and not only that, it has been ripped from people's PlayStation accounts. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or through YouTube memberships. Now, I have talked about Stellar Blade a bunch of times on the channel. It is one of my most anticipated releases of 2024. It just looks like it is going to be a fantastic, action-packed game that really does pack on the fan service, which of course many people want. And recently a demo was published and people were so hyped. It was shadow dropped. There was no news about it. We had no idea that it was coming, but very shortly after it actually got delisted, but also ripped from the accounts of people who already downloaded it. I wanted to start with this Game Rant article. It says a playable demo for the PlayStation 5 exclusive action game Stellar Blade was briefly released by Sony via the PSN store. Unfortunately for those interested in trying Stellar Blade out, the publication was in error and the demo was quickly delisted after a short period of time. Now, of course, this is a game that everyone is following very closely. Any pieces of news that are released, people are sharing around. Stellar Blade has trended quite a few times since we got its official release date, and we still are quite a bit of a ways away from that because it does not release until the very end of April, but nonetheless, people are very excited for it. So when we got this shadow dropped demo, plenty of people flocked to the PlayStation store to try to get this demo, and yes, there was a lot of footage on it online, so if you don't want any sort of spoilers, I definitely would be careful, searching the internet for this game until release. But at this point in time, all of those uploads, whether it's to YouTube or live streams of it, are being struck down because this release was actually in error. It says, fans hungry for a taste of actual Stellar Blade play seemingly got their chance early on March 9th when a playable demo for Stellar Blade appeared on the North American PSN store. At the time, it seemed like Shift Up and Sony had shadow dropped a demo for the new game, the better to build anticipation a little more than a month out from release, but within an hour of launch, Sony had removed the ability to download the demo and delisted its product page from the PSN store. Now, of course, yes, sometimes errors happen, but the way in which they responded and reacted to this error has gotten people infuriated because if you downloaded it, this is the message that you now receive. It says, Stellar Blade demo, thank you for being a valued PlayStation customer. The Stellar Blade demo has been taken off the PlayStation store effective immediately as it was not intended to be available for download at this time. The demo is no longer accessible, and as a result, we have removed the demo from your account. This is why we cannot trust an all-digital future. They can remove something from your console without even telling you. I get that it was a big, giant mistake, but if I downloaded it, I should be able to keep it. It's like with Silent Hill PT. Yeah, after Konami decided they didn't want it to, be up anymore, you couldn't download it, but if you already downloaded it, you could still access it. It was still in your account, and that is not the case with the Stellar Blade demo. Sony shouldn't be able to remove anything from your account, period. Once you have something, and it's not something you downloaded knowing it was timed, like if you download a game from Game Pass, then it gets taken off after a certain amount of time, it should still be there. It's similar to Netflix, right, where there's things that are not permanent, and yes, there could be demos released for a certain amount of time, in a short amount of time. I personally haven't played one, but there's nothing here to indicate indicate that was the plan. And if that was the case, they wouldn't have needed to include the message, you know, when people go back into play, that it was this big giant mistake. So people who say you didn't pay for it, that is not the point. We are headed into an all digital future, and whether you paid for it or not, you still signed an agreement to access the product, and that was just voided by Sony. And even if you have it installed, it'll no longer function. When you download a demo, if they don't specifically tell you it's only playable for, say, a week, then it should be permanently available on your system, just like with the Silent Hill PT demo from Konami. And even though they're saying it was a mistake, that's still on them. This is just another example of Sony screwing with people's digital goods. Now, I'm not attacking Shift Up for going at Sony and telling them to remove it from the store, because yeah, they didn't want it up, and that's fair. That is their decision. But it's just that Sony has to take responsibility, and instead of doing the responsible thing, which is let the downloaded one stand, they deleted it. They should have had to turn around and profusely apologize, but also negotiate with the developers over it to compensate them for the people that got the demo. It should have been something along the lines of, yeah, we fucked up, but we can't just remove it from people's libraries, so where do we go from here? And maybe they are doing that, we don't know, but I just highly doubt it. And of course, this has infuriated people who downloaded it and expected to play it. And I'm sure over the next week or two, this demo will go back up on the PlayStation storefront, and it will be fully accessible to people. And, you know, the developers will probably come out and say, yes, this is actually the official release, and make a big joke out of it. But at the same time, it's just not okay that Sony has done this. This is a comicbook.com article. Stellar Blade players upset after demo gets removed from their PlayStation 5s. I understand, again, it is a mistake, but it is a mistake Sony needed to own up to, and they didn't. It says, soon after the Stellar Blade demo went live on the PlayStation Store and people started playing it, some who claimed it in time started getting messages like the one below, it confirmed to be removed from PlayStation accounts. It is the same message that I had just read. Twitter users who got the message were talking about how, you know, the digital future is looking grim given how a demo like this could be pulled from accounts at a whim. It's something that's been seen to a degree in the past with things where it gradually became more difficult to own and play as the PlayStation 5 released, but seeing a demo removed entirely from players' accounts like this is different. Yes, things go up on storefronts and get taken down from storefronts all the time, but unless you are, again, paying for something like Game Pass where you are completely aware that it is not going to be accessible after a certain amount of time, and they do warn that to you when you sign up for the service, you shouldn't be able to just have a product ripped from your account. And only a few months ago, I had talked about this situation in a separate video. Sony pulls Discovery videos PlayStation users already own, sparking concerns over our digital future. And yes, they were removed from the PlayStation storefront because, of course, licensing deals expired, but it still doesn't matter. If I paid for potentially hundreds of dollars worth of products, they should still be accessible to me at the end of the day, or at the very least, you should be compensating my account the full amount that I spent on this product. And of course, that is not what happened. Sony pulled these videos that PlayStation users already owned. Nobody got any sort of compensation. They, of course, were not kept up on the storefront, and they just went about their day like it didn't really matter. It just goes to show how little Sony cares about users actually owning the content that they expect to and being able to access the content that they had purchased under the impression that they were going to forevermore be able to access it. Of course, we are headed towards an all digital future. It is inevitable at this point, but it is very, very worrying to see situations like this happen. Again, I am not blaming Shift Up at all whatsoever for this, and I do not blame them for wanting it pulled from the storefront, but I am going to completely blame Sony for pulling it from people's PlayStation accounts. I'm sure the full demo will be released in the next week or two as we are a little bit closer to the full launch of Stellar Blade, a game I personally am still extremely excited for, but this is definitely not a good situation as we are headed to an all-digital future. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.